Hey Summoners, welcome to another ProGuides video. Today's topic is going to be the best champions to one trick. Especially as the season is coming to a close, it's going to be in your best interest to start maining a champion, as this will help you make that final push toward that sweet ranked border you're shooting for. A lot of the picks we're mentioning in this video aren't going to be your typical OP picks, but with good reason. This is because OP picks merit bans, and if you're one-tricking a champion, the worst possible scenario is you not being able to play your pick. Even against counters, you can learn to play specific matchups and understand the little nuances behind them. Not being able to play your one trick, however, means you're going to have to either dodge or play a character you aren't comfortable with. So many one-tricks climb and find success even when their champions aren't the strongest OP champions in the game. Comfort on your pick is much more important than the relative strength of a champion. With that all said, make sure to leave any feedback, comments, and suggestions down below. For our question of the day, what's been your favorite moment of Worlds so far? For me, it was watching Team Liquid win their match versus Damwon. The NA dream is alive, baby! But before we get started, make sure you go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements in your rank. We upload video guides similar to this one on our website every single day. As of now, we're currently uploading a Challenger gameplay analysis guide for every single champion, so make sure to click that link below. Also, we have an exclusive coaching feature called Play with a Pro, which provides instant, on-demand, 24/7 coaching from the best of the best. Trust me guys, you don't want to miss out on this, so sign up today. Alright, with all that being said, let's jump right into it. Top. Our very first pick is going to be Kennen. One of the best things you can look for in a champion to one trick is how safe they are. It's inarguable that Kennen is easily one of the safest top laners in the game. He's ranged, scales well, and can find ways to be useful in all situations. Aside from this, he has so many favorable matchups that picking him usually means you'll be in the driver's seat in most games. Playing any ranged champion requires a good understanding of minion wave management as well as knowing how to poke your opponents. When practicing him, you'll want to focus heavily on your lane phase. Pick up as much farm as possible while taking every opportunity you can to harass your opponent. This is the most important first step that you'll need to take. Usually on every round, ranged champions will lose extended fights. Your goal is to build enough of a lead that you can win all-ins. You can do this by harassing your opponents and picking up more gold than them during the early stages of the game. From there, you can buy more items than them and continue to snowball from small leads you created early on. The other things you'll need to nail are your flanks and flash usage. As Kennen, flash is your most important cooldown, even more so than teleport. It's extremely difficult to get a raw ultimate, and flash helps you get the most value out of it. Once mastered, Kennen is a safe option who will always be able to hard carry, or at least carry his own weight in every game. For our next top lane pick, we're choosing Riven. While her win rate isn't impressive at the moment, it's important to note that more experienced players are hitting win rates as high as 54% still. She shouldn't come as a surprise to many of you guys, and we hyped her up a lot across our various series. The reason for this is that Riven has high mobility, is a great split pusher, and equally as effective team fighter. She does it all, and that's what makes her a great one-trick candidate. Our analysts think what makes Riven different from other champions is her extremely high skill ceiling. Although this might seem like a reason not to play her, we're talking about champions to one trick. This means you'll be dedicating most of your time to perfecting your play on this one champion, so difficulty shouldn't be a reason to not pick them up. If anything, it keeps the game fresh because you're never going to peak, and there'll always be stuff to learn or practice. If you can master Riven, the rewards absolutely justify the investment. Riven's versatility means that you'll be able to impact every game in some way. Mastery of her means that you'll consistently be able to come out of lane even or even ahead. From there, you can effectively impact the game in any way you choose to go about it. Think about it. So many pros and streamers find their roots with this champion. She's considered one of the hardest 1v9 champions in the game and deserves this title. To wrap up the top lane, our analysts want to mention Gangplank. This might sound strange to many of you guys, but high elo players will generally agree with the statement that Gangplank is a very safe pick. How, you may ask? The reason for this is because he scales well, can purge crowd control, and use his mana to farm safely. Even if you can beat GP in lane, it's difficult to completely shut him out because he can always at least pick up a decent amount of farm during the lane phase. As the game progresses, he only gets stronger and stronger. You're going to want to pick up GP if you like team fighting. This man is built to carry fights in every way, shape, and form. His ultimate is a great tool for engaging fights, disengaging, or punishing his opponents. The most effective way to play Gangplank is to punish opponents for chasing, or to use him to siege. This is because it's pretty difficult to use his barrels as a chasing tool. It's not impossible though, and this is going to come with a lot of practice. Here's a recap of our top lane builds. Next up, let's talk about the jungle. We've got 3 jungle picks as well, and first up is Lee Sin. We've all probably seen one too many Lee Sin montages, but it's important to remember that he's not all about those plays. Remember, a montage is just that, and it's not a holistic representation of playing Lee Sin. What you usually don't get to see is more defensive, less flashy Lee Sin play, and this is part of what we want to highlight. Lee Sin is effective in a variety of situations. Again, he's also one of the more difficult characters in the game, but practice and dedication can circumvent this. There's a lot of arguments against picking Lee Sin, and we want to address them. The most common are he's not reliable, and you could have better engaged playing someone else. While both of these statements are true in regards to a lot of players, they don't ring true with enough practice. As you become more comfortable on him, pulling off in-sec engages should become just as natural as landing something like a Sejuani ultimate. In terms of reliability, most champions in the game have some form of a non-targeted ability. Lee Sin isn't that different, and this perception mostly results from biases players have formed after watching one too many goofs. With this, he's just as effective as other picks, but much more flexible. Next up is Rengar. Why not Kha'Zix? While Kha'Zix does have a higher win rate, he also has a significantly higher ban rate. You can accomplish the same thing with Rengar and get him much more often. Rengar makes picks and deals insane damage when ahead. You'll want to abuse overextending opponents over and over again, growing stronger each time you pick up a kill. Another thing you'll want to make sure you learn while playing Rengar is to assess whether you're stronger or weaker than your opponents at certain levels. One of the most important strategies you'll need to apply as Rengar is going for level 1 invades. Of course, this comes with a high risk, but risky doesn't mean wrong. This is why you'll need to be able to tell if you can win a level 1 2v2 or 3v3 on either side of the map, and try to force these fights. Rengar's early game is actually very strong because of his ridiculous damage. The issues he faces are that his strength is based on terrain. He needs brushes to effectively reach his targets. Being comfortable forcing advantageous situations is essential. By doing so, you can turn games into the famous Fiesta's solo queue is known for, where you can thrive and carry. Wrapping up the jungle is Nidalee. League's iconic Cougar is one of the most dominant solo queue stomping characters in the game's history. She's ranged, agile, and clears the jungle extremely quickly. Because of this, there's a lot of things you'll need to get good at in order to play her effectively. The most obvious one is that you'll need to be very comfortable mechanically. Nidalee takes a lot of mechanical prowess to play well. She has a skill shot, needs to kite, and has more abilities to use than the average champion. Another thing you'll have to do is path optimally with her. Nidalee's high mobility means that you'll be able to counter jungle your opponent much more effectively than with others. But most importantly, what Nidalee does better than other junglers is invade. Due to her range and mobility, she's one of the hardest champions to duel versus. You'll want to play aggressively and contest your opponent's camps whenever possible. Especially with red buff, Nidalee can either kite her enemies or slowly hunt down her prey, either killing them or pushing them out of the jungle. By doing so, she can pressure the map while her enemy is recovering and trying to regain their footing. Here's a recap of our jungle builds. Next up, let's talk about the mid lane. Let's talk about Talon. This champion is infamous for solo carrying and also being MIA all the time. It's pretty normal for this guy to win games without ever solo killing his own opponent. Mid difference is something often thrown out by salty enemies after getting killed over and over by Talon roams. Talon's cross-map mobility and ability to traverse terrain makes him one of the best mid laners for roaming. This isn't to say that he's a weak laner either. Talon is one of the most dangerous champions to lane versus because of how much raw damage he can dish out. In addition to this, he has great wave clear, further supporting his case as a great roamer. Like any other assassin, your high burst enables you to make picks and transition numbers advantages into objectives. As an AD champion, you also have the option to split push and take turrets rather quickly. Play Talon because you want to punish your opponent's mistakes and reap the benefits. Second, in the mid lane, we want to give Katarina a spin. She's one of the few reset queens in this game, and you definitely want to take advantage of the environment of solo queue when playing her. Team fights are chaotic and disorganized, meaning there'll often be opportunities for you to pop off and find those game-winning aces. While her early game is far from impressive, her mid to late game carry potential justifies this. You'll need to focus on matchups and your mechanics when learning to play Katarina. Katarina is one of the most challenging champions to master because of how much mouse movement and reaction time she requires. Nevertheless, with dedication, she's one of the most rewarding picks, and who knows, maybe you'll find yourself on a montage. Ahri is our third mid lane pick. She's been dominating solo queue for many patches now, and we're here to break down why you should consider joining her fandom. Ahri is one of the safest playmaking champions in the game. Her kit is equipped with wave clear, mobility, and crowd control. This means that she'll naturally be able to stabilize games as well as make game-winning picks with little risk of dying. Not many champions can match the mobility of Ahri's 3 dashes. Currently, Glacial Augment is one of the best builds to run on her because it makes her easier to play as well. Assassins always specialize in making picks, but Twin Shadows as well as Hextech GLP makes this even easier because you can pick off targets from extended ranges. If you want to play a champion who's not extremely difficult but still versatile and able to make play after play, you want a one-trick Ahri. Here's a recap of our mid lane builds. Next up, let's talk about the bot lane. Kicking off bot lane is one of League's safest picks, Caitlyn. In spite of her safety and noob-friendly association, Caitlyn is one of the most mechanically demanding champions in the entire game. She has a lot of combos and inputs you need to learn and master to play her full potential. While she's a rather vanilla character, Caitlyn is absolutely a hard carry champion. Win lane, win game is definitely a Caitlyn thing, as she's an oppressive lane bully who likes to use her leads from lane to continue to choke out her opponents. With her range advantage, she can realistically poke out her opponents and manage the wave. As a result of this, she can always pressure the enemy's turret and also provide lane priority for a jungler to start dragons. From there, she transitions into a monster siege champion in the later stages of the game. She boasts high utility, good disengage, and respectable damage. Next up is Kai'Sa. If you've watched our channel frequently, you'll know that Kai'Sa made the cut as one of the hardest carry champions in solo queue. This is because of her mobility, high DPS, and hybridized damage split. She's very capable of carrying her games and has left an unforgettable mark in the competitive scene. When playing her, you're always looking for those hard outplays, kind of like Vayne. The difference is that a champion like Vayne, who has no wave clear built into her kit, relies solely on her opponent's mistakes. Kai'Sa, who has more tools available to her, can be more proactive in trying to create leads. What makes Kai'Sa great is that unlike most marksmen, she's able to take both short and long trades well. A lot of them prefer one, but this is what we mean when Kai'Sa can look for outplays. She can always play around what her opponent doesn't want in order to find those advantages during the lane phase. Later into the game, you get a good chance to show off your mechanics because of your mobility and high damage output. With great power comes great responsibility, and Kai'Sa has some of the best backline access. Although having so many options is great, it also means that you need to be able to assess which of those many options is the best one. Our last bot lane pick is Lucian. He's a favorite of many solo queue players as well as professionals. His mobility and powerful trading make him one of the most flashy marksmen in the game. He's the marksman you're most likely to see frontlining and leading the charge. He's just cool like that. Although it's not specifically a great reason in terms of gameplay, when someone plays Lucian well, it's really obvious. A great Lucian player pushes their limits and pulls off plays the average Joe wouldn't be able to identify. You're a playmaker when you play Lucian, and you can't say the same when you're playing many other marksmen. Most matchups are playable because of your mobility and strong trading. You can almost always find some way to outplay your opponent, and you also give the enemy laners a hard time because of the constant pressure you can apply during lane. Here's a recap of our bot lane builds. Let's wrap it up with support. We can't mention Lucian without throwing in his nemesis, Thresh. Ever since his release, Thresh has been a hot topic in the League community as a whole. He was and still is one of the most unique support champions in the game. His abilities function both offensively and defensively, meaning that there's just so many things that are possible for him. If you ever wonder why there are so many Thresh montages, it's just because there are more options for him than other support champions. A well-played Thresh can carry practically any lane. You always have room to improve and learn more. All of his abilities have so many practical uses. You can use your hook to catch your champions, Lantern to either save a teammate or engage with a buddy, Flay to counter certain abilities, and your box to lock down your enemies. When playing Thresh, you never have to question whether you could be playing someone who can do more, because he's one of the best equipped supports in the game. Our second support pick is Janna. A part of League's original roster, Janna has lived through thick and thin. The biggest reason to play Janna is because of how effective she is. She's consistently a champion with a high win rate as well as a low ban rate. While she's stereotyped as a brain-dead, easy champion, the reality is it's not as simple as it seems. Yes, your goals are usually very straightforward, but this doesn't mean it's easy. You have to perceive what's going to happen and be able to position preemptively. In spite of being straightforward, Janna is a very strong champion because you can still look to outplay your opponents by dodging abilities and punishing their wasted cooldowns. In the late game, the utility you provide is invaluable, and you'll be able to heavily influence fights with your powerful disengage. Janna one-tricks get a lot of disrespect, but at the end of the day, a lot of us play this game to win. Imagine flaming someone for wanting to win a competitive game. Our last support pick is Rakan. Like we've mentioned with most of our other picks, versatility is a key factor when choosing a champion. Rakan is a unique mid-lane support champion who has to play both offensive and defensive roles in every game. Although he relies on teammates for optimal mobility, he's capable of some pretty sick engages and plays because of his design. There's a lot you need to do when you play Rakan because you have to constantly assess the best use of your abilities. You'll need to put in a lot of time into him so you can gain experience across a variety of situations and learn to instinctively react back to them. At the end of the day, you'll be the player who hard engages, saves your team, and carries their games by doing it all. Honestly, Rakan's kinda like a superhero. Pick him when you want to play a support who needs to multitask and can do both anything and everything. Here's a recap of our support builds. And that concludes our video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you want more content to help you improve, check out ProGuides.com, where we've teamed up with pro players to create guides designed to take your game to the next level. Also, keep an eye out on our YouTube channel, where we're constantly updating it with new content just like this. Good luck out there on the Rift. We'll see y'all next time.